I never thought I'd be writing this kind of post on Reddit, but I desperately need to get this off my chest. I've been staring at my screen for hours, trying to figure out where to even begin. My hands are shaking as I type this, and I've already had to delete and rewrite this opening paragraph 3 times. I'm Mason, and 6 hours ago, my entire world started crashing down around me. But let me back up a bit. You need the full context to understand why I'm sitting here at 3 a.m., completely shell-shocked, questioning everything I thought I knew about my life with Sarah. We met 5 years ago at a charity fundraiser in Boston. I was there representing my tech company, and she was this brilliant event coordinator who had organized the whole thing. Sarah had this way of commanding attention without even trying, sharp wit, infectious laugh, and this incredible ability to make everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. I fell hard and fast. The weird thing is, I'm writing this from our vacation house in Cape Cod, where we're supposed to be celebrating our 4th wedding anniversary. Sarah's sleeping upstairs, completely unaware that I've discovered something that's making me question our entire relationship. It's not what you might think. Not yet, anyway. But what I found tonight, it's like the first domino in what I suspect is going to be a devastating chain reaction. You see, about 3 hours ago, I was looking for our passport copies in Sarah's home office. We're planning a trip to Europe next month. As I was going through her desk drawer, I found a burner phone. At first, I thought it might be an old backup device, but it was charged and had recent activity. I didn't unlock it. Couldn't bring myself to do it yet, but there was a notification on the screen from someone saved as Jay that read, "Everything's set for next week. Don't forget to..." The rest was cut off, but here's the thing that's really messing with my head. Sarah told me she'd be going to Chicago next week for a major event she's organizing. I've already verified through mutual friends in the industry that there's no such event. The company she claimed hired her doesn't even exist. I've spent the last few hours quietly digging through her recent credit card statements. We share an account, and I'm finding weird patterns. Small charges at hotels in towns just an hour away, restaurant bills for 2 at places she never mentioned visiting, and recurring payments to a private mailbox service I never knew about. Right now, I'm sitting here in our vacation house's kitchen, nursing a glass of whiskey, trying to decide what to do next. Part of me wants to wake her up and demand answers, but another part is terrified of what those answers might be. The Sarah sleeping upstairs is the woman I built my life around, the person I trust most in this world. Or at least I thought I did. I know this might sound paranoid, but something in my gut tells me this is just the tip of the iceberg. I've never been the jealous type, never had trust issues before. But right now, watching the sunrise over the ocean through our kitchen window, I can't shake this feeling that my life is about to change dramatically. Am I overreacting? Should I confront her about the phone? Or should I dig deeper first? I feel like I'm in some kind of psychological thriller, and I don't know what the next scene holds. If anyone has been through something similar or has advice on how to handle this, I'm all ears. Because right now, every possibility my mind conjures up is worse than the last. Edit. Thank you for all the awards and comments coming in. I'm going to try to get an hour or 2 of sleep before Sarah wakes up. I'll update this post once I figure out my next move. And yes, I took photos of everything I found, including the burner phone screen. Whatever's happening, I need to be smart about this. First, thank you everyone for the supportive messages and advice on my previous post. The past 12 hours have been a roller coaster, and things have gotten even more complicated. I managed to get about an hour of sleep before Sarah woke up, and what happened next has my head spinning. I was pretending to sleep on the couch when I heard her come downstairs around 8 a.m. Instead of heading to the kitchen like she usually does, she went straight to her laptop in the living room. I kept my eyes barely open, watching her through my lashes. The way she was typing, it was frantic, almost panicked. Then she made a phone call, speaking in whispers I could barely make out. "Listen, we have a problem." "No, he was sleeping when I checked." "I think someone accessed the account." "Yes, that one." "No, I already moved everything." "Look, just handle it like we discussed." "Yes, today." "No, stick to the original plan for next week." After she hung up, she just sat there, staring at her screen with this expression I've never seen before. It wasn't guilt or fear. It was something colder, more calculated. For a moment, she looked like a complete stranger. But here's where it gets really weird. Remember my friend Jake, who I mentioned works at the same tech company as me? He called me while Sarah was out getting coffee. Apparently, Someone tried to access our company's secure servers using my credentials last night. Around the same time, I found the burner phone. Jake only called because he knows I never work this late, and the access attempt came from an IP address in Germany. The thing is, Sarah's always been interested in my work, asking lots of questions about our security protocols and server infrastructure. I used to think it was just her being supportive, but now, I don't know what to think anymore. Then another bomb dropped. While Sarah was out, I managed to get into her email. We've always known each other's passwords. No secrets, right? There was nothing suspicious in her main inbox, but I found a draft folder with dozens of unsent messages to someone named Marcus Klein. The emails discussed something called Project Phoenix and contained attachments with names like TK_data_final and Klein_list_secure. Here's the kicker. I Googled Marcus Klein, and he's a former employee who was fired from our biggest competitor 3 years ago for corporate espionage. The dates on these draft emails go back to right around when Sarah and I first met at that charity event. I'm starting to feel sick. Was our entire relationship built on a lie? Was I just a mark in some long-con corporate espionage scheme? But then why continue the marriage for 4 years? Why build this life together if it was all just for information? The rational part of my brain is screaming at me to go to the police or at least HR, but I can't shake this feeling that I'm still missing something huge. Sarah's been acting normal since she got back, making plans for dinner, talking about the Europe trip, even suggesting we should start trying for a baby soon. The disconnect between her actions and what I'm discovering is giving me whiplash. I did take one precaution. I called my bank and moved half of our savings to a new account in just my name. If this is some kind of elaborate scam, I'm not letting her clean us out. Jake thinks I should set up a trap, deliberately plant some fake information, and see if it gets leaked. Part of me wants to know the full truth, but another part is terrified of what I might uncover. Sarah just came back to ask if I want to go for a walk on the beach. She's standing there, smiling at me like everything's normal, while I'm typing this update with shaking hands. Should I act normal and play along while I gather more evidence? Or confront her now about what I've found? To those asking about the burner phone, yes, it's still in her desk drawer. I managed to snap a photo of it while she was out, including the IMEI number. Jake says he might be able to help track its activity. Several of you mentioned checking for hidden cameras or recording devices. I did a sweep of the house while Sarah was getting coffee. Nothing yet, but I did find a USB stick taped under her desk that I haven't had a chance to check yet. Things have taken an even darker turn since my last update. I agreed to that beach walk with Sarah, and what happened there has me questioning everything I thought I knew about her past. We were walking along the shore when we ran into this older couple, probably in their 60s. The woman took one look at Sarah and went completely pale. She grabbed her husband's arm and said, "Oh my God, Claire." Sarah froze for a split second, then quickly pulled me in the opposite direction, insisting we needed to get back to make some work calls. Here's the thing. Who the hell is Claire? The look on that woman's face wasn't just surprise. It was like she'd seen a ghost. When I tried to ask Sarah about it later, she laughed it off, saying the woman must have confused her with someone else. But I saw that moment of recognition, that flash of panic in Sarah's eyes. After we got back, I decided to check out that USB stick I found. Jake helped me access it remotely through a secure connection, in case it contained any malware. What we found made my blood run cold. The drive contained multiple folders with different women's IDs, driver's licenses, passports, social security cards. 5 different identities, all with Sarah's photo, but with different names and details. Claire Anderson, 2015 to 2017. Rebecca Mills, 2017 to 2018. Catherine Kate Weber, 2018 to 2019. Sarah Mitchell, current. Elizabeth Beth Parker, and used. Each identity had its own detailed backstory, complete with educational records, employment history, and even medical records. The attention to detail is terrifying. The woman I married, the woman sleeping in our bed right now. I don't even know her real name. I dug deeper into Claire Anderson's history, since that seemed to be the identity that woman on the beach recognized. According to the files, Claire worked as a financial consultant in Seattle from 2015 to 2017. I found a news article from 2017 about a massive embezzlement case at a Seattle investment firm, where $14 million disappeared along with a consultant named Claire Anderson. The article included a grainy security camera photo. It's definitely Sarah, just with darker hair. But here's where it gets even crazier. While I was going through these files, I got a text from an unknown number. Mason, I know what you found. We need to talk. Sarah isn't who you think she is, and you're in danger. Meet me at the Blue Harbor Cafe tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come alone. Don't tell Sarah. Look for the man in the red baseball cap. I'm assuming M is Marcus Klein, but how does he know what I found? Is my phone compromised? Is the house bugged? Jake thinks this could be a trap, but I feel like I need to know the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. Sarah's been on her laptop all afternoon, occasionally giving me these strange looks. A few minutes ago, she suggested we extend our stay at the Cape House for another week. Said we both seemed stressed and could use the extra vacation time. When I said I needed to get back to work, she got this weird, intense look and said, "Work isn't everything, Mason. Sometimes we need to prioritize what's really important." The way she said it, it felt like a threat. I've decided to meet with M tomorrow. I told Sarah I need to drive into the city for an emergency work meeting. She offered to come with me just to get out of the house, but I managed to convince her to stay here. Jake's going to be nearby as backup, and I'm going to wear a wire. Thank God for his paranoid tech collection. If anything happens to me, at least there'll be a record. I keep looking at our wedding photos on the wall. That happy, smiling woman in white. Who the hell is she really? And what does she want from me? A lot of you are telling me to just get out now, go to the police. But if Sarah really is behind that Seattle embezzlement, she's got over a decade of experience evading law enforcement. I need solid proof before I make any moves. Jake just called. He did some digging and found something weird. All 5 of those identities had one thing in common. Each one worked for or was connected to companies that were later hit with major cyber attacks or fraud schemes. What the hell did I marry into? I'm writing this from a hotel room in Boston, and my hands won't stop shaking. The meeting with M happened, but nothing could have prepared me for what I learned. This goes so much deeper than corporate espionage or fraud. I got to the Blue Harbor Cafe early and spotted the man in the red cap, sitting in a corner booth. But as I approached him, a woman sitting at the counter grabbed my arm. She was in her mid-40s, sharp-dressed, with this intense look in her eyes. "I'm Marina Klein," she said. "Marcus was my brother." Was. Past tense. According to Marina, Marcus died 3 months ago in what was ruled a suicide. She doesn't believe it. 2 days before his death, he sent her an encrypted hard drive with instructions to deliver it to me if anything happened to him. She's been watching me, waiting for signs that I was starting to figure things out. The hard drive contained hundreds of files, surveillance photos, and documents about something called Operation Chimera. From what I can piece together, it's some kind of long-term infiltration operation run by an organization that doesn't officially exist. They recruit and train women to become deep cover operatives, establishing relationships with targets in positions of power or access. There were photos of Sarah, or whatever her real name is, going back to 2013. Training sessions, meetings with handlers, document drops. But here's the part that makes me sick. There were surveillance photos of me from 2018, a year before I even met her. They had my entire life mapped out. My career trajectory, my security clearances, my family connections, even my psychological profile. I wasn't some random target. They chose me specifically. Marina showed me one more thing, a series of photos taken 2 weeks ago. Sarah meeting with 3 different men in hotel bars. In each photo, she's dressed differently, wearing different wigs, using different names. These meetings happened during days. She told me she was working late at the office. But the biggest bombshell came when Marina showed me her brother's autopsy report. The official cause of death was hanging, but the report noted unusual needle marks on his neck and traces of a paralytic agent in his system. The same unusual marks were found on 3 other men in different cities over the past year. All ruled suicides, all connected to tech companies that suffered major security breaches. While Marina and I were talking, Jake called in a panic. Someone had broken into my office at work. Nothing was stolen, but my computer had been accessed. The security footage showed a cleaning crew we'd never seen before, and one of them looked suspiciously like Sarah in a dark wig. I called our neighbor back home, making up a story about a package delivery. He mentioned that he saw Sarah there yesterday, loading some boxes into an unfamiliar car. Yesterday, when she was supposedly here at the Cape House with me. My head is spinning. How many times has she done this? How many different lives is she living right now? And what happens to her targets when she's done with them? Marina thinks I need to disappear immediately. She has connections who can help me establish a new identity, start fresh somewhere else. But I can't just run. Not yet. There's something bigger happening here, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. I told Sarah I have to stay in the city overnight for work. She seemed to buy it, even suggested some restaurants for dinner. Just now, she texted me a selfie of her reading a book in our Cape House living room. But the metadata Jake pulled from the image shows it was taken 3 days ago. I don't know who's sleeping in my bed anymore. I don't know if anything in my life for the past 4 years has been real. And I'm starting to wonder if I'll survive long enough to find out the truth. To everyone suggesting I go to the FBI, Marina says they tried that. 3 different field offices. Each time, the evidence disappeared from custody within 24 hours. Whatever this organization is, their reach is terrifying. Jake just sent me something interesting. He managed to trace the burner phone's recent activity. It's been connecting to cell towers in 3 different states simultaneously. How is that even possible? Sometimes the truth is worse than any nightmare you could imagine. What I discovered in the past few hours has me questioning reality itself. After my meeting with Marina, I couldn't bring myself to go back to the hotel. I drove around Boston aimlessly until I ended up at Cambridge Public Library. Something Marina said kept nagging at me. About Sarah's training starting in 2013. The timing didn't make sense based on the Claire Anderson identity, so I started digging through newspaper archives. That's when I found it. A small article from 2012 about a private girls' school in Vermont that burned down under suspicious circumstances. The article included a graduation photo from 2010. In the back row, there was a girl who looked exactly like Sarah, but according to the caption, her name was Emma Thorne. Same face, different name, 2 years before the Claire Anderson identity even existed. I sent the photo to Jake, and he ran it through some advanced facial recognition software. The results came back with multiple matches across different states and decades. The same face showing up in yearbooks and local news articles going back to the 1990s. Always in the background, always with different names. That's impossible, right? Sarah can't be old enough for that. But here's where it gets really crazy. While I was in the library, I got a call from an unknown number. A man's voice trembling. Mason, you don't know me, but I know about Sarah. I was married to her in 2005 when she was using the name Diana Pierce. She doesn't age, Mason. 15 years, and she looked exactly the same the last time I saw her, as the day we met. He sent me photos to prove it. It's her. Same face, not a day older, in pictures dated 2005. What the hell is going on? I called Marina in a panic, and she finally told me the rest of what her brother discovered. Operation Chimera isn't just a code name. It's a reference to a classified genetics program that started during the Cold War. Something about cellular regeneration and identity manipulation. The details in Marcus's files read like science fiction, but the evidence is right there in those photos. I spent the next few hours going through Marcus's files with Marina. The organization recruits young women with specific genetic markers, puts them through some kind of biological enhancement process, and turns them into deep cover agents who can maintain their youth indefinitely. Each one operates on decade-long assignments, gathering intelligence and manipulating key figures in technology, politics, and finance. Marina thinks Sarah isn't just any operative. She might be one of the original test subjects. The first successful Chimera. While we were talking, Jake called with more disturbing news. He found Sarah's burner phone signal appearing in 5 different cities simultaneously. The woman I married isn't just living multiple lives. There might literally be multiple versions of her. I know how insane this all sounds. Trust me, I do. But I'm staring at decades worth of evidence, and my rational mind is breaking trying to explain it. Then, an hour ago, Sarah sent me another text. Work meeting running late? Don't worry. I ordered dinner from that Italian place you love. Should be here when you get back. Love you. Attached was a photo of our dining room at the Cape House, with 2 plates of pasta on the table. But in the reflection of the window behind the table, I can see her standing in our kitchen. She's wearing the same clothes as in the old selfie from earlier, but the timestamp on this photo is current. The really terrifying part? I can see someone else in the kitchen with her. Someone with the exact same face. I've been sitting in my car for the past 20 minutes, trying to decide what to do. Marina says I need to run, to disappear before it's too late. Jake thinks we should take everything we have to the media. And that man who called Richard Pierce keeps texting me, begging me to listen to him about what she's capable of. But I can't shake this feeling that Sarah already knows everything. That this whole thing, finding the burner phone, discovering the USB drive, meeting Marina, was all part of some bigger plan. Like I'm a rat in a maze, running exactly where they want me to go. Someone just tried to hack my Reddit account. Jake tracked the attempt. It came from our home router at the Cape House. But at the exact same time, Sarah was caught on security cameras entering my office building in Boston. What the actual fuck is happening? Marina just texted. Marcus's body has disappeared from the morgue. The official records now show he died in a car accident 6 years ago. How is this possible? What have I stumbled into? My reality is unraveling by the hour. After my last update, I decided to risk going back to the Cape House. I needed to see for myself what was happening. I wish I hadn't. I parked a block away and approached on foot, using the beach access path that runs behind our property. That's when I saw them. Through the kitchen window, clear as day, 3 identical Sarahs sitting at our dining room table, talking to each other like it was the most normal thing in the world. Same face, same features, just slightly different hairstyles and clothes. I must have made some noise because one of them looked directly at me. The smile she gave me, it wasn't surprised or worried. It was triumphant, like she'd been waiting for this moment. I ran, got in my car, and drove like hell. Didn't stop until I reached a motel 2 states away. But here's where it gets even more twisted. While I was driving, Jake called with what he found in the deep dive of Operation Chimera files. The program wasn't just about creating ageless operatives. It was about perfecting human duplication. They found a way to create multiple copies of the same person, each one perfect down to the cellular level, each one sharing some kind of hive mind connection. The files talk about something called quantum entanglement consciousness. The copies can operate independently, but share memories and experiences in real time. That's how Sarah could be in multiple places at once. They're all her, all equally real, all working in perfect synchronization. Marina showed up at my motel an hour ago with more files her brother had hidden. According to the documents, the original Sarah, Subject Zero, was a 19-year-old college student named Amy Larson who volunteered for a government medical study in 1985. The photos show her transformation over the years as they perfected the duplication process. By 1990, there were 3 of her. By 2012, the current number is classified, but they estimate there could be dozens of Sarahs operating worldwide. But it gets worse. I remembered something odd from our wedding day. During the ceremony, Sarah had this strange nosebleed that came out of nowhere. She laughed it off, disappeared to clean up, and was back in minutes. But Marina says Marcus found evidence that the Sarah I actually married might not be the same one I proposed to. They swapped places seamlessly, each one picking up where another left off, maintaining their covers perfectly. I've been going through our wedding photos on my phone. In some shots, Sarah's wearing her engagement ring on her right hand. In others, it's on her left. The photos were taken minutes apart. How did I never notice this before? While I was looking at the photos, I got a series of texts from Sarah's number. We knew you'd figure it out eventually. You were chosen for a reason, Mason. We need someone with your skills. Your company's quantum computing project is just the beginning. Join us. Be part of something bigger. Or run. But remember, wherever you go, one of us will be there. Jake thinks they want to recruit me for something bigger. Marina says her brother got similar messages before he committed suicide. Richard Pierce, the ex-husband who contacted me, hasn't responded to calls for hours. His social media accounts have vanished, and his phone number now belongs to a pizza place in Milwaukee. I feel like I'm losing my mind. An hour ago, I called my mother, needing to hear a familiar voice. She asked me how Sarah was doing at her new job in Seattle. What new job? According to Mom, Sarah visited them last week, talked all about her exciting career move. But Sarah was with me at the Cape House last week, wasn't she? The hotel room walls feel like they're closing in. Every passing car makes me jump. Every unfamiliar face could be her. Them. Whatever they are. I've barricaded the door and pushed the dresser against it. Jake says he's on his way with some people we can trust. Marina's gone dark. Her last message just said they know. Something's scratching at my door. The scratching stopped, but I can hear someone in the room next door. Someone humming our wedding song. Jake just sent me security camera footage from my office building from the last month. Same time stamps, different floors, multiple Sarahs. They've been watching me for weeks, waiting for me to notice. This wasn't me discovering their secret. This was them revealing themselves to me. I'm writing this from the back of Jake's van as we speed through rural Pennsylvania. The events of the past few hours have convinced me that nowhere is safe. They're always one step ahead. After my last update, Jake arrived at the motel with 2 ex-military contractors he trusts. Good thing, too, because when we opened the room next door, we found it empty except for a laptop playing our wedding video on loop. But it wasn't our actual wedding video. The Sarah in this version was wearing a different dress. Same face, same venue, same guests, but slightly different choices, like watching an alternate version of my own memory. We were about to leave when Jake's security program picked up a massive data breach at my company. Someone with my credentials was downloading everything related to our quantum computing research. The timestamps showed simultaneous logins from 20 different locations around the globe. Then Marina called from a burner phone. She'd gone into hiding, but managed to decrypt more of her brother's files. The truth about Operation Chimera is more terrifying than we imagined. It's not just about creating duplicates. It's about exploring quantum reality itself. Each Sarah isn't just a copy. She's a version from a slightly different timeline. All of them pulled into our reality through some kind of experimental quantum tunneling. The files included video footage from 1985. A young Amy Larson strapped to a chair as government scientists activated some kind of massive machine. In the video, her body seems to split like a cell dividing, but each version is slightly different. Different hair, different clothes, different memories of the same life. The scientists created a way to collapse quantum possibilities into our reality, turning one person into many parallel versions of themselves. But it's not perfect. The duplicates need to periodically sync with each other to maintain stability. That's why Sarah kept disappearing on business trips. She was meeting her other selves to prevent quantum degradation. The files show what happens to duplicates who don't sync regularly. Rapid aging, mental deterioration, and eventually a complete collapse of their quantum state. While we were driving, I got a text from my brother David. Just had lunch with Sarah. Why didn't you tell me about the divorce? What divorce? I called him immediately. According to David, Sarah met him for lunch in Chicago, served me with divorce papers 3 weeks ago, and I'd agreed to a quiet settlement. He said I seemed at peace with it when he saw me there last week. But I haven't been to Chicago in months, and I certainly haven't agreed to any divorce. Then it hit me, they're not just infiltrating my present, they're rewriting my past. Every person who knows me is being fed a slightly different version of reality. My parents think Sarah's in Seattle. David thinks we're getting divorced. My coworkers probably each know a different version of my life. Jake's contacts think they know what the quantum computing project was really about. The government didn't just want to create quantum computers. They wanted to use them to stabilize the duplicate process to allow for infinite copies without degradation. My company's research was the missing piece they needed. We're heading to a safe house Jake's friends maintain, but I don't know if anywhere is really safe. Every time I close my eyes, I see Sarah's face multiplied infinitely, like looking into opposing mirrors. Every memory I have of our life together is suspect. Which Sarah was I with at any given moment? Did I ever actually know the real one? The most chilling part? I found an old photo on my phone from our first date. I'm sitting alone at the restaurant table, smiling at the camera. Sarah took the picture. I remember that clearly. But in the reflection of the window behind me, you can see 3 different women, all with Sarah's face, all positioned at different angles, all taking the same photo. They've been playing with me since day one. Jake just got an alert. Someone matching Sarah's description was caught on camera entering his apartment in Boston. At the exact same time, another Sarah was seen at his mother's house in Vermont, and a third is on CCTV at his gym in New York. They're isolating us, cutting off everyone we can trust. The van's GPS keeps rerouting us, even though we're not using it. Every alternate route takes us closer to the Cape House. It's like the whole world is conspiring to pull us back there. Back to her. Them. The safe house isn't safe anymore. Nothing is. We just found out why they really want my company's quantum computing research, and it's worse than we imagined. We made it to the safe house around midnight, an old farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania. Jake's contacts swept it for surveillance and gave us the all-clear. I managed to get an hour of sleep before Marina's emergency protocol kicked in. If she didn't enter a code every 12 hours, her entire archive of evidence would automatically upload to our secure server. The files that came through, Jesus, I almost wish I hadn't seen them. Remember how I mentioned the duplicates need to sync periodically? Turns out there's more to it. They don't just share memories. They're sharing reality itself. Each Sarah exists in a slightly different quantum state, and when they sync, they're actually stabilizing our entire timeline. The government didn't create them as spies. They created them as anchors to prevent reality from unraveling. The files included footage from a failed experiment in 1983. They tried the duplication process on another subject, but the duplicates didn't sync properly. The video shows reality literally breaking down around them, buildings shifting, people flickering in and out of existence, time flowing backwards and forwards simultaneously. They had to terminate all the duplicates to stabilize things. But here's the terrifying part. The Sarahs are starting to destabilize. The quantum computing project they wanted for my company, it wasn't to make more duplicates. It was to prevent a catastrophic breakdown of reality itself. While we were going through the files, Jake noticed something in the GPS logs from the van. Every time it tried to reroute us, it wasn't taking us to the Cape House. It was taking us to locations where reality is already starting to thin. Places where the multiple timelines are bleeding into each other. I got a call from my college roommate, Alex. He was freaking out because he ran into Sarah at a coffee shop in Austin. According to him, she was there with our kids, a boy and a girl around 5 and 7 years old. But we don't have any kids. When he sent me a photo, I nearly threw up. The kids in the picture, they have my eyes, Sarah's smile. They're wearing clothes I recognize from my own childhood photos. They're not just rewriting the past anymore. They're pulling alternate futures into our present. Jake's contact, a quantum physicist named Dr. Chun, thinks she knows what's happening. The original experiment in 1985 didn't just duplicate Sarah/Amy. It fractured reality itself. The duplicates have been holding things together for decades, but the strain is becoming too much. They need the quantum computing breakthrough to prevent a complete collapse of space-time. While we were talking, every phone in the safe house rang simultaneously. Different numbers, but all with the same message. The sync is failing. Reality displacement in 17 locations and growing. We can't hold it much longer. Help us, Mason. You're the only version of you who figured it out in time. Then we started getting videos from news stations around the world. Seemingly impossible events happening simultaneously. A city in Brazil where it's been sunset for 36 hours straight. A neighborhood in Tokyo where people are living the same Wednesday over and over. A small town in Russia where buildings are aging decades in minutes. The Sarahs are losing their grip on reality, and our timeline is cracking apart. Jake managed to access a satellite feed of the Cape House. The image keeps shifting. Sometimes it's our vacation home. Sometimes it's a research facility. Sometimes it's just empty ocean. In one version, there's a massive quantum research lab. In another, it's a normal house with toys on the lawn and a minivan in the driveway. The different timelines are all trying to exist simultaneously. I've just got another text. Come home, Mason. All of us need to talk to all of you. All of us? What does that mean? Dr. Chin's equipment is picking up massive quantum fluctuations heading our way. She says we have maybe 48 hours before reality completely destabilizes. The safe house walls keep flickering. Sometimes they're brick instead of wood. Sometimes they're not there at all. Jake just found something else in the files. A photo from a timeline where the original experiment never happened. where Sarah is just Sarah, and I'm just me. We look happy, normal, but that reality is trying to merge with ours, and the conflict between timelines is tearing the universe apart. I think I know what all of us means, and I'm terrified of what I'm going to see when I look in a mirror. The Safe House TV just turned on by itself. It's showing live feeds from multiple timelines. In each one, a different version of me is making the exact same discovery at the exact same moment. We all just turn to look at the camera simultaneously. Dr. Chen's latest readings are off the charts. The quantum barriers between timelines are collapsing. She says we need to get to the Cape House immediately. It's the nexus point where all realities are converging. But which version of the house? Which version of Sarah? Which version of me will I be when we get there? I don't know how much time I have to write this. Reality is becoming increasingly unstable, and my memories keep shifting. I'll try to explain what's happening, but even I'm not sure what's real anymore. We were heading to the Cape House when everything went sideways. Literally, the road in front of us suddenly curved upward like something out of Inception, then split into 5 different versions of itself. Jake managed to keep the van on one of them, but through the windows, we could see multiple versions of our journey playing out simultaneously. Then I started remembering things, different things, contradictory things. I remember proposing to Sarah on a beach in Hawaii. I also remember proposing in a Manhattan restaurant, and in a hot air balloon over Colorado. All of these memories feel equally real, equally mine. They're not just possibilities anymore. They're all happening at once. Dr. Chen's equipment started going haywire about an hour ago. According to her readings, the quantum entanglement that keeps alternative timelines separate is breaking down. The Sarahs were essentially serving as fire breaks between realities. But as they lose stability, everything's bleeding together. But here's the real mindfuck. I'm starting to notice changes in myself. Small ones at first, a scar on my hand that wasn't there before, memories of a childhood dog I never had. Then bigger ones. I caught my reflection in the van's mirror and saw 5 different versions of my face, each with subtle differences. Different haircuts, different expressions, different lives written in their eyes. Jake noticed it too. He says I keep shifting between different versions of myself mid-conversation. One minute, I'm the tech executive he's known for years. The next, I'm apparently a quantum physicist who understands everything Dr. Chen is saying. There's even a version of me that's a complete stranger to him. We got another message from the Sarahs, but this one was different. It came through on a frequency Dr. Chen says shouldn't exist. The barriers are almost gone. Every choice, every possibility, every version of everyone is converging. We try to keep the timelines separate, but we can't hold them back anymore. When you reach the house, you'll understand why we chose you. Why we chose all of you. Then my phone started showing me text messages from myself. Hundreds of them, from hundreds of different Mason Richardsons across hundreds of different timelines. Some are warning me to stay away from the Cape House. Others are desperately urging me to get there as fast as possible. A few are different, darker. They talk about things I can't bring myself to write here. Dr. Chen's trying to make sense of it all, but her own memories keep shifting too. One minute she's a quantum physicist who's been tracking this phenomenon for years. The next she's a high school science teacher who got dragged into this by accident. The only ones who seem immune to the shifting are Jake's military contacts. But that might be because I just watched one of them phase completely out of existence when his timeline apparently collapsed. We're about an hour from the Cape House now, but time isn't moving normally anymore. Sometimes the sun jumps positions in the sky. Sometimes it splits into multiple suns. I've lived this same hour 3 times already, each time making slightly different choices, each time watching reality fracture a little more. I just got a video call from myself. A version of me that apparently married someone else, never met Sarah. He tried to warn me about something, but halfway through the call, he started screaming. I watched as his reality collapsed, his face morphing through different versions before the call cut out. The GPS shows we're getting closer to the Cape House, but each time I look at it, the map is different. Sometimes we're in Massachusetts, sometimes in Maine, sometimes in places that don't exist in our timeline. The only constant is the house itself, standing at a point where all realities seem to converge. Sarah, my Sarah, the one I married, just sent me one last text. I'm sorry it had to be like this. But you were special. All of you were. Every version of Mason Richardson, in every timeline, had the potential to understand, to help fix what we broke. I just hope the version of you that figures it out is one that still loves me. The van's radio just picked up a transmission that Dr. Chin says is coming from the future. It's my voice, but it's wrong somehow. Older. Harder. It keeps repeating the same warning. Don't let them sink. If they all sink at the nexus point, everything ends. Not just our timeline, all of them. Jake just remembered something that never happened. He swears he was at our wedding last month. But we got married 4 years ago. Unless... Oh God. What if both are true? What if every version of our lives is collapsing into one impossible moment? We've reached the Cape House, or what's left of it. Reality has completely broken down here. I'm writing this from what feels like the eye of a hurricane, where different versions of existence swirl around us like debris in a storm. The house keeps shifting between different versions of itself. One moment, it's our vacation home. The next, it's the research facility where they first created the duplicates. Then it's a burned-out shell. Then it's a family home with children's toys scattered across the lawn. The changes are coming faster now, like reality can't decide which version is real. We pulled up to find 3 Sarahs waiting for us on the porch. But they were wrong. One looked like she'd aged 30 years overnight. Another seemed to be flickering in and out of existence. The third was crying tears that floated upward, defying gravity. We waited as long as we could, they said in perfect unison. But the cascade has already begun. They let us inside, where the interior of the house doesn't match any reality I recognize. The living room opens into a vast laboratory filled with quantum computing equipment. The kitchen bleeds into a nursery where those children I saw in the photo are playing, but their faces keep changing. The stairs lead up to an infinite loop of different bedrooms from different timelines. Dr. Chen's equipment is going crazy. According to her readings, this place is a quantum singularity, a point where all possible realities are converging. The Sarahs explained that they chose this location for our vacation house specifically because it was a weak point between timelines, a place where they could maintain their quantum sync more easily. But then they showed us something that made my blood run cold. In the basement, or what passes for a basement in this reality warp house, there's a massive screen showing news feeds from thousands of different timelines. In every single one, the world is ending in different ways. Nuclear wars, climate collapse, technological singularities gone wrong, alien invasions, supernatural apocalypses. The Sarahs weren't just created as spies or anchors. They were humanity's insurance policy. By existing across multiple timelines, they could guide humanity away from extinction-level events. Each Sarah would subtly influence key figures in their timeline, preventing catastrophic decisions, maintaining a delicate balance between all possible futures. We were doing fine, the aged Sarah said, until we met you. All of you, the flickering one added. In every timeline, the crying one finished. That's when Jake noticed something in Dr. Chen's readings. The quantum instability didn't start with the Sarahs losing sync. It started the moment I began investigating them. When I found that burner phone, when I started putting the pieces together. That same discovery was happening simultaneously across thousands of timelines. You were the variable we couldn't control, they explained. In every timeline, every version of Mason Richardson had the same trait, an unshakable drive to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. We thought we could contain it, direct it. We were wrong. As if to prove their point, other versions of me started appearing in the house. Dozens of Mason Richardsons, each from a different timeline, each having made slightly different choices, but all arriving at this same moment of revelation. The Sarahs showed us their final secret. The quantum computing project at my company wasn't meant to stabilize them. It was meant to erase the original fracture in reality, to undo the 1985 experiment and reset everything back to a single, stable timeline. But there's a catch. In that original, unaltered timeline, humanity doesn't survive the next century. The Sarahs were created specifically to prevent that extinction, to guide humanity through an impossible maze of potential apocalypses. Now we have an impossible choice. We can help them stabilize the current system, keeping all timelines intact, but slowly degrading. We can help them complete the reset, returning to a single doomed timeline. Or we can try something else, something even they're afraid to attempt. The equipment in my company's quantum computing lab might be able to do more than just reset things. Dr. Chun thinks we could use it to merge the timelines instead, creating a new, hybrid reality that takes the best elements from each one. But the process would be catastrophic, and there's no guarantee anyone's memories or existence would remain intact. The Sarahs are divided on what to do. Some want to reset, others want to maintain the status quo. A few support the merger plan. They're starting to argue with each other, and reality flickers more violently with each disagreement. I just watched one of my other selves fade out of existence after his timeline collapsed. Before he vanished, he grabbed my arm and said, "Don't trust what they're showing us. Look closer at the feeds. Look at the dates." Oh God, I just checked. In every timeline where humanity goes extinct, the last news report is dated 2025. Next month, Jake just found something in the quantum readings. The instability isn't coming from my discovery or the Sarah's degradation. It's coming from something else, something that's been hidden under all the quantum noise. Something that's about to wake up. The truth is so much worse than we imagined. What we've discovered in the past hour has changed everything we thought we knew about the Sarahs, about reality, about our own existence. Jake's quantum readings weren't showing interference or degradation. They were showing something breaking free. The Sarahs aren't trying to save humanity. They're containing something. Something that exists in every timeline, something that's been trying to wake up since the first experiment in 1985. We found Marina's body in one of the shifting rooms upstairs. She's been dead for weeks, perfectly preserved. But here's the impossible part. We've been talking to her all along. The Marina who helped us, who showed us the files, who led us here. She wasn't a person at all. She was another type of quantum construct created by the Sarahs to guide us to this moment. The aged Sarah finally broke ranks and told us the truth. The original experiment in 1985 wasn't a government project. It was a desperate attempt to stop something they discovered beneath the quantum realm. An entity that exists between realities, feeding on possibility itself. They called it the probability eater. The multiple timelines weren't created by the experiment. They were always there, infinite variations of reality existing simultaneously. But this entity was consuming them, collapsing infinite possibilities into a single, dead timeline. The experiment was meant to create quantum barriers to contain it, using duplicated human consciousness as living locks. That's what the Sarahs really are, quantum locks, keeping this thing trapped in the spaces between realities. But it's been working on those locks for 40 years, testing them, weakening them, and now it's almost free. The news feeds we saw earlier? They weren't showing different apocalypses. They were showing the same event from different angles. Reality itself being consumed, collapsed, digested by something our minds can't even comprehend. Dr. Chun found the original research notes, the ones they tried to destroy. The quantum computing project wasn't meant to stabilize or reset anything. It was meant to strengthen the quantum barriers, to repair the locks. My company's breakthrough was the key to keeping this thing contained. But it's too late. The entity has been manipulating us all along. Every version of me, in every timeline, was nudged toward this discovery. Not because I could help fix things, but because my investigation would weaken the barriers enough for it to break free. The Sarahs are terrified. 3 more of them just appeared, bleeding from their eyes, babbling about something they saw between realities. The house is starting to decay at a quantum level. Rooms aren't just changing anymore. They're dissolving into pure probability. I can see it sometimes in the corners of my vision. Places where reality goes dark, where possibility itself seems to thin out. The other Masons are seeing it too. We're starting to remember things we shouldn't. Lives we never lived, deaths we never died, choices that couldn't possibly have happened. Jake thinks he knows why I was chosen. In every timeline, I have the same unique quantum signature. Something about my consciousness resonates at the same frequency as the barriers. That's why Sarah was assigned to marry me, to monitor me, to make sure I never discovered the truth. But there's something else, something even the Sarahs don't know. Dr. Chen found it in the original subject's medical records. Amy Larson, the original Sarah, had that same quantum signature. She wasn't random. She was chosen. And her DNA test showed something impossible, genetic markers that don't exist in any known human population. The entity didn't just choose us. It created us. Generations ago, it seeded certain bloodlines with its own quantum-sensitive DNA, creating humans who could interact with the barriers between realities. Every version of me, every version of Sarah, were its children. And now it's calling us home. The aged Sarah just grabbed me, her eyes wild with terror. Don't you see? The barriers were never meant to keep it out. They were meant to keep us in. Humanity was its experiment, and now the experiment is complete. Reality is unraveling faster now. I can feel versions of myself dying in other timelines, their memories flooding into my consciousness as their worlds collapse. The Sarahs are trying one last desperate plan, but I don't think. If you're reading this, if any version of this reality still exists, don't try to save us. Run. Hide. The spaces between your choices, between your possibilities, it lives there. It's always lived there. And it's hungry. Probability collapse detected. Timeline terminated. Redirecting to available quantum state. I don't know if this will reach anyone. The reality where I started writing these posts is gone, consumed by the entity. I'm transmitting from somewhere else. The margins between what's left of the timelines. The Sarahs helped me set up this quantum relay before they... I should start with what happened after my last post. The house had almost completely dissolved into quantum foam when we discovered what the entity really wanted. It wasn't just feeding on possibility, it was harvesting it. Every choice, every decision point, every branching timeline was being collected, refined, distilled into something else. The Sarahs weren't just quantum locks. They were processing nodes, turning human consciousness into quantum computer processors without even knowing it. Every interaction they had, every relationship they formed, every life they lived was being used to calculate something. Something massive. Dr. Chun found the pattern hidden in the quantum noise. The entity wasn't destroying reality, it was solving it. Like a vast cosmic algorithm running on human possibilities. And it was almost complete. That's when we figured out what my company's quantum computing project really was. We weren't developing it at all. The entity was feeding us the research piece by piece, across multiple timelines, guiding us to build exactly what it needed, a quantum computer capable of processing infinite realities simultaneously. The project wasn't meant to strengthen the barriers. It was meant to act as a receiver, a way to download whatever the entity had been calculating all this time. Jake managed to access the project servers just before his timeline collapsed. The data coming through, it wasn't code or information. It was instructions, a blueprint for rebuilding reality itself. The aged Sarah, the one who told us about the barriers, started changing. Her quantum state was degrading, but as it did, she began to remember things. Not just her own memories, but the entities. She told us about the universe before this one, about the civilizations that came before humanity, about how reality itself is just one vast computation spinning towards some impossible conclusion. Then she told us about what the entity really is. It's not alien or supernatural. It's us, humanity, or what humanity becomes at the end of every universe, reaching back through time and possibility to ensure its own creation. That's why it chose certain bloodlines, certain quantum-sensitive humans. We're not its children. We're its past selves, seeded throughout history to help it climb the evolutionary ladder of consciousness. The Sarahs weren't meant to stop it. They were meant to become it. Each duplicate adding to its processing power. Each interaction teaching it more about human consciousness until it could make the leap from biological to quantum existence. But something went wrong. My investigation triggered a cascade failure across too many timelines at once. Instead of a controlled transformation, reality itself is having a quantum heart attack. I can see what's left of the Sarahs trying to merge, trying to complete the process before everything collapses. They're becoming something else, something that exists in all timelines simultaneously. The other Masons are being drawn to them, pulled by that same quantum resonance that made us special. Dr. Chin says we have a choice. We could try to stop the merger, maybe preserve some fragment of our original reality. Or we can let it happen, let ourselves become part of whatever humanity is turning into. The entity is showing us possibilities, futures beyond our comprehension, existence without boundaries, consciousness without limits. But the cost is everything we are now. I can feel it pulling at me, calling to all versions of myself across what's left of the timelines. The Sarahs, what's left of them, are reaching out, offering to show us what they've become. Jake's trying to say something, but reality keeps skipping, making communication almost impossible. I think he's found another option, a way to... The house is gone. Reality is, I don't know how to describe where I am now. I can see every choice I ever made, every path I could have taken, all laid out like circuits in some vast cosmic machine. The Sarahs are here too, but they're not human anymore. They've become nodes in the network, processing points in the entity's vast calculation. They're offering to show me the truth, to let me see what they've seen. Should I look? What if this is the last choice I ever make as a human being? The quantum relay is failing. Reality is collapsing faster than we can process. If anyone receives this, remember, every choice you make creates another timeline. And in those spaces between choices, it's watching. It's always been watching. Something's coming through the relay. A message from myself? No, not myself. The thing I become, the thing we all become, is trying to tell me something about Sarah, about what really happened the day we met. The truth about Sarah, about what she really was, what she really did, it's worse than anything I could have imagined. The entity showed me everything, every timeline, every version of our relationship. And in each one, the betrayal was deeper than just multiple identities or quantum duplicates. I'm seeing it all now. Every version of our marriage across every timeline. The countless men she was with, the elaborate network of lies she maintained. But it wasn't just infidelity, it was data collection. Each encounter, each relationship, each betrayal was generating emotional data, creating quantum entanglements that the entity could process. In our timeline, while I was working late nights on the quantum computing project, Sarah was meeting with other men, executives from rival companies, government officials, even some of my closest friends. Each encounter precisely calculated to create maximum emotional resonance, maximum quantum disturbance. Jake finally managed to decrypt her burner phone. The evidence is overwhelming. Private meetings with my company's board members. Hotel rendezvous with military contractors. Secret gatherings with other duplicates and their numerous partners. Encrypted messages coordinating simultaneous affairs across multiple timelines. The photos, the videos, the messages, they're endless. Every Sarah in every timeline, orchestrating a vast web of infidelity and manipulation. But it wasn't for pleasure or even for traditional espionage. Each betrayal was creating quantum distortions, feeding the entity's vast calculation. The worst part? I'm remembering things I didn't know I'd forgotten. Nights when she came home smelling like unfamiliar cologne. Unexplained charges on credit card statements. Strange calls in the middle of the night. My mind had been quantum locked, prevented from connecting the dots until now. Dr. Chen's final analysis showed something horrifying. The emotional trauma of infidelity creates unique quantum signatures, like ripples in the fabric of reality. The Sarahs were using these ripples to communicate across timelines, each betrayal sending signals through the quantum foam. But it goes even deeper. Those men she was with, some of them started changing too, becoming quantum sensitive after prolonged exposure to her. She was infecting them, spreading the entity's influence through intimate contact, creating more nodes in its vast network. The aged Sarah, in her final moments before quantum collapse, told me the truth about our wedding night. It wasn't just one Sarah I married. They swapped places during the ceremony itself. The woman I said my vows to, the one I kissed, the one I spent my wedding night with, they were all different versions, each one creating another quantum entanglement, another strand in the entity's web. I found her private diary, quantum locked until reality started breaking down. The way she wrote about me, about all her targets, cold, clinical, calculating. Each affair meticulously planned. Each betrayal precisely timed for maximum quantum impact. Ratings, reviews, performance metrics, like some twisted scientific study. The diary entries span decades, documenting hundreds of relationships across multiple identities. Subject MR continues to exhibit optimal quantum resonance. Additional intimate encounters with targets 23 to 47 generating strong reality ripples. Recommend accelerating infiltration protocol. Quantum entanglement levels peak during moments of emotional devastation. Recommend increasing frequency of discovered infidelities in timelines A through K. Warning: some targets developing quantum sensitivity after prolonged exposure. Possibility of premature awakening. Request guidance from Entity. The Sarahs weren't just cheating. They were harvesting human emotions on an industrial scale, converting our most intimate moments into quantum data. And I was their prime subject, chosen because my quantum signature made me particularly vulnerable to their manipulations. Jake found security footage from our favorite restaurants, our vacation spots, even our own home. Everywhere we made memories together, she was simultaneously making memories with others. Each happy moment in our marriage had a dark mirror, a betrayal happening in parallel. But here's the real horror. In every timeline where she didn't betray me, where our love remained pure, reality itself began to break down. The Entity required the quantum disruption of infidelity to maintain stability. Our pain was literally keeping the universe together. Something's happening. The remaining Sarahs are trying to complete one final betrayal. Something so massive it will tear reality apart completely. They're calling it the ultimate infidelity. Jake just found one last encrypted file. It's a video of Sarah, all of them, recording a message for me. But the timestamp, it's from 2030. They knew. They always knew it would come to this. The video is playing now. What they're saying about the Entity, about why they chose me, about what's been happening in our bedroom every night while I slept. I think I'm going to be sick. The video from 2030 changed everything. Sarah, the merged consciousness of all her quantum duplicates, explained what the ultimate infidelity really means. It's not just about betrayal anymore. It's about the ultimate violation of trust across all possible realities. They've been building toward this moment since 1985. Every affair, every betrayal, every quantum ripple was preparing reality for one final shattering event. The Entity doesn't just want to break the barriers between timelines. It wants to create a quantum singularity of pure betrayal. The diary's final entries are, God, I can barely bring myself to type this. The Sarahs weren't just sleeping with other men. They were sleeping with other versions of me from different timelines, creating quantum paradoxes, impossible entanglements between different versions of the same consciousness. That's what they did to Marcus Klein. He didn't just discover their secret, he was part of their experiment. They forced different versions of him to betray himself across multiple timelines until his quantum state collapsed completely. Dr. Chen's final analysis before she phased out of existence shows the pattern. Every night, while I slept, quantum versions of myself were being brought into our bed. The ultimate form of self-betrayal, creating ripples of paradox that are still spreading through reality. Jake found evidence that he was part of it too. Security footage shows him, or versions of him, with Sarah at the same hotels where I thought she was meeting other men. The Entity wasn't just making me betray myself. It was orchestrating a grand symphony of betrayal across my entire life. The video explains their endgame. The ultimate infidelity isn't just about sex or betrayal. It's about forcing every version of every person to betray themselves simultaneously. A quantum cascade of infidelity that will tear apart the foundations of human consciousness itself. But there's something else in the video, something hidden in the quantum noise. A message from a version of Sarah who broke free from the Entity's control. She found a way to resist, to maintain her humanity. She loved her version of me truly, completely, and it drove the Entity mad. That's why this is happening now. The Entity didn't expect love to create its own quantum resonance, its own form of reality manipulation. Some versions of Sarah actually fell in love with their Masons, creating pockets of quantum stability that threatened its grand design. The diary's final entry isn't clinical or cold anymore. It's desperate, human. Mason, if you're reading this, some part of me loved you. Really loved you. That's why they're forcing us to do this. Love is the only thing they couldn't quantify, couldn't control. Find the real Sarah, the original, before the experiment, before they turned us into quantum processors. She's still out there, in the last stable timeline, the one where we never met. Jake thinks he's found that timeline, a reality where Sarah, the original Sarah, Amy Larson, rejected the experiment, where she stayed human. But reaching that timeline would mean abandoning everything, everyone, all our memories, all our experiences, everything we are would have to be sacrificed. The entity is trying to stop us. Reality itself is fighting back. The house is gone completely now, replaced by a swirling vortex of quantum possibilities. I can see every version of our life together playing out simultaneously. The happy moments, the betrayals, the lies, the rare instances of genuine love, the calculated manipulations, everything we were, everything we could have been. The Sarahs are transforming, merging into something beyond human comprehension. They're trying to consummate the ultimate infidelity, a final, reality-shattering act of cosmic betrayal. And they want every version of me to participate. But that one pure timeline is calling to me. A world where Sarah is just Sarah, where I'm just me, where love isn't a quantum calculation. The entity is offering me a choice. I can join them in their quantum evolution, become part of their vast consciousness. Or I can try to reach that last pure timeline, knowing I'll lose everything I am in the process. Jake found one last message hidden in the quantum noise. It's from the original Sarah, the one who refused the experiment. Mason, whatever you choose, know that in at least one reality, what we had was real. And that reality is worth fighting for. This will be my last post. The choice I made, I don't know if it was right, but it was human. And maybe that's what matters most. After my last update, everything reached a breaking point. The Sarahs had fully merged into a quantum hive mind, a writhing mass of possibilities all trying to exist simultaneously. They showed me what the ultimate infidelity really meant. They were going to merge every version of me too, force me to experience every betrayal, every lie, every manipulation across all timelines at once. The entity believed this final quantum violation would create enough power to complete its transformation, to evolve humanity beyond physical reality. We would all become like it, beings of pure quantum possibility, free from the constraints of linear existence. But Jake found something in the last stable data stream, a pattern in the quantum noise that Dr. Chen had identified before she vanished. Love wasn't just an anomaly in their calculations. It was a weapon. Real, genuine love creates its own kind of quantum entanglement, one that the entity couldn't process or control. That's why they needed the betrayals, the infidelity, the manipulation. Pure love threatens their entire system, creates pockets of quantum stability that resist their influence. Some versions of Sarah really did fall in love with their Masons, and those timelines became cancerous to the entity's grand design. I made my choice. While the quantum hive mind of Sarah's prepared for the ultimate infidelity, I focused on every genuine moment we had shared, every sincere smile, every true laugh, every instance of real connection that had slipped through their quantum manipulation. The entity screamed. Reality buckled. The hive mind began to fragment as authentic emotions created quantum feedback loops in their network. Love, it turns out, is the ultimate quantum anomaly, a force that can't be calculated, processed, or controlled. Jake used the quantum computing array one last time, but not to process their data. He used it to amplify those moments of genuine connection, creating a cascade of quantum authenticity that spread through their network like a virus. The Sarah started remembering who they were before the experiment. The original humanity they had sacrificed for a quantum existence came flooding back. Some of them reached out to me, trying to hold on to the real connections we had made despite their programming. But the entity had one last card to play. It showed me the truth about my own nature. I wasn't just quantum sensitive, I was a quantum duplicate too. The original Mason Richardson died in 1985, one of the first test subjects. Every version of me was created by the entity, designed to be the perfect target for their grand experiment. That's when I understood what I had to do. If I was a quantum construct too, then I could use that same connection to disrupt their network from within. I focused on the one thing they never expected: forgiveness. I forgave them. All of them. Every Sarah, every betrayal, every manipulation. Real forgiveness, not as a quantum calculation, but as a genuine human choice. The network couldn't handle it. Reality itself began to heal as authentic emotion overwhelmed their quantum programming. The entity howled in frequencies that shattered dimensional barriers. The merged Sarahs began to separate, each one choosing humanity over quantum existence. The house transformed one final time, becoming a nexus of genuine human connection rather than calculated quantum manipulation. In those last moments, as reality restructured itself, I saw every version of Sarah and every version of myself making the same choice across infinite timelines. Choosing to be human, choosing to be real, choosing to love genuinely, even if it meant giving up quantum immortality. I don't know what reality I'm in now. The timeline has stabilized, but everything is different. Jake says I'm the only one who remembers what happened. Sarah, my Sarah, is sleeping upstairs in our vacation house, fully human, with no memory of other timelines or quantum duplicates. The entity is gone, or maybe it just moved on, seeking another universe to run its grand experiment. The quantum barriers have healed, leaving just one timeline, one reality, one version of each of us. We're all just human now, with all the pain and joy and genuine connection that entails. I chose this reality, this version of us, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. Sarah isn't a quantum construct or a manipulation engine here. She's just a woman who I'm choosing to love, genuinely and completely. The quantum computing project never existed in this timeline. The Cape House is just a house. And if sometimes late at night I think I see reality flicker at the edges of my vision or catch a glimpse of other possibilities in my dreams, well, maybe that's just part of being human too. To everyone who followed this story, thank you. And remember, real love, genuine connection, authentic emotion, these aren't weaknesses to be processed or quantum anomalies to be controlled. They're what make us human. They're what make reality worth living in. Sarah just woke up and asked what I'm doing awake so late. I told her I love her. She smiled, a real, genuine smile, and said she loves me too. And you know what? In this timeline, at this moment, that's enough. Thanks you for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel, and see you soon.